Right, first of all, thanks for coming, because I know you've got a choice. Hopefully, is the other one like a really bad one? Is that why everyone's here or something? Is it like another lawyer or something? Anyway. It's going to be a little bit of a wild ride today, because I did prepare a presentation, and after yesterday, I've got a few additions to it. So just stick with me while I make sure that this all works. So I chronically overwrite absolutely everything, and when they said, what's your theme, I tried to keep it really short and realised that most of you would turn up and have very little idea what it's about, and that probably suits me fine because it sort of makes two of us to a certain extent. So I am going to be talking about polywaffle, but some other stuff as well, so it's sort of about that. And this is a genuine question, and I know this is awkward for you guys, but would anyone be super offended if I let a bad word slip every now and again? Because I do radio, and so I do have a filter, but it's really hard for me to concentrate if I can't say fuck every now and again. So if that's great, I'm being serious. If someone had been really offended, I would have skipped it. So here's what we're going to do today. The first thing is I'm going to try and convince you that I know what I'm talking about. Then we're going to talk about a bit of methodology. Then go to polywaffle, but not really. I'm going to go further back than that and talk about a bit more history to do with my relationship with the men's client who are here today and sitting right in the fucking front. So I've got to be really careful what I say. Then we'll talk a bit about polywaffle. And then at the end, I want to kind of talk about some general ideas. One of the things I noticed yesterday is I left, and by the way, there were some really good speakers yesterday, but I left going, oh my God, that was amazing. And sometimes I struggle to think how I can apply certain ideas, and so I want to try and give you a couple of really practical things. I wasn't here this morning, so I know Show Pony might have done a little bit of that, but bear with me, you'll get the Sputnik version of it, which will probably be completely the opposite of their version. I'm also going to try and avoid doing this. Does anyone know what wank word bingo is? Wank word bingo, someone at the back does, is like when you go to a meeting and every time someone says like, you know, holistic, you go and you tick the thing off your card and stuff. So every time I say something like be authentic or whatever, just cross it off your card. But I'm going to try and keep it as real as possible. So that's the what do you call it, Matt? The flex. The flex. Some of these clients we've done lots of stuff for. Some of them we've just done bits and pieces. And one of the reasons I show it is because working with a brand like American Idol, for example, is completely different to working with a brand like Unilever. And even though Unilever's a great one to brag about, I worked on that when I was in Cambodia. And as an example of breadth of work, I don't know if anyone's spent any amount of time in Cambodia, but when you advertise horrifically something like skin whitening cream in Cambodia, we have tanning cream, they have skin whitening cream, or you advertise something like shampoo. This is really embarrassing, my phone's ringing and it's distracting me, give me 1 second. They'll advertise it in a sachet, like the kind of thing that we used to see stuck to the front of a magazine that we get for free as a sample pack. They sell that for about 2,500 real, which is about 70 cents. Because of course, if you come from a third world country where people are super poor and don't have enough money to eat, but you're still trying to convince them that they should have nice, shiny hair, then what they do is they buy it in those tiny little sachets. And so, we talk a little bit about examples of marketing, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that I learned yesterday in a second as well. But it's very easy for certain products and brands and harder for other products and brands depending on the dynamics. And I would have a guess here. Are there many people here? I did ask if the zoo lady is still here. But is there anyone else in the elephant industry in the room? No one else sells elephants, right? Or has elephants at the office or anything like that? So sometimes you see brands and you go, it's all right for them to say they've got elephants, or, we would call the RSPCA a bit of a free hit. You get a baby Labrador in, you put it on TV and you sort of can't go wrong. But when you're trying to sell certain products, and again, I don't know where everyone works, but there'll absolutely be people in here sitting there at some point during the couple of days going, that's all right for them to say, but my product's shit, or it's boring, or it's probably too expensive, and I can't just go to the boss and say, could I please put 69% off, limited time offer, and a little countdown on the website that I can sell some. I actually showed that slide. Again, that's no offence to, I think it was Nick who showed us that slide. No offence to Nick or that client, but I showed it to one of my clients yesterday because I was talking about the limited edition, limited time thing, and he went, 69% off, doesn't that compromise the brand? And that's the kind of thing an agency's supposed to say, not the client, because the client just wants to sell stuff. So there's all those sorts of considerations that I'm sure everyone in here had slightly different reactions to that. I also showed this slide though. So along with flexing, in 2007, I sent to someone a message saying, Facebook, hey, I'm not sure I have time to work out the ins and outs. Isn't MySpace just the way we go? And I show that because sometimes I also get it wrong. And I think it's important that when you listen to someone's advice, you know what kind of skill set they bring to the table. And I am the person that thought Facebook wouldn't work because MySpace was so good. My MySpace is on there. If you want to go and look it up, I don't know if it's still there, but there's probably some grouse pictures. I'm also going to do some how old am I jokes, and there's a reason for that. So my first job, I used one of those red typewriters. We didn't have computers. I worked at a place called BBDO. Oh, that's my other claim to fame. Most people start at the bottom and work their way up. I did it the other way around. I started at BBDO, which is one of the top agency groups, and worked my way down until I had my own business with, almost no people. But we did use a typewriter. That was the first laptop I had. Had 2 meg of RAM and a 2 meg hard drive or something like that. So we stored things on floppy disks. And I only tell you that because I've seen a few things in those years. So I was doing pretty well in my career. Then websites came along. And I didn't get to make very much money doing brochures and posters anymore. And I thought, shit, my career's over. Then everybody got websites, and we were back to even, and clients worked out that they still needed someone who knew how to tell a story and how to differentiate a brand. I was back in business. That was pretty cool. Then SEO came along, and those bastards got all the money again, and I thought, right, it's over. I'm not going to go and learn SEO. Then everyone tried to do SEO. Turns out, I know this is a bit radical for some of you, turns out only so many people can be at the top of that first page. So for the rest of you, you're always trying to, do that. So all the people who say, we can get you there, I don't know what the other people are doing, but there's only so many spaces. Then it was social media, and then we hit this most horrible disruption of all time for someone who charges for advertising, because suddenly everyone got this idea that advertising should be free, because you could just, I know it's not anymore, organic reach is in the shit and all that sort of stuff. But there was this time where you could just have a Facebook page and reach audiences for free. And even though I was going to say 1 million years, there wasn't advertising for 1 million years before social media. But even though for the 100 years before that, you had to pay to get seen, people very quickly normalised this idea that it should be free. You should just be able to, my organic reach doesn't exist anymore. They want me to spend money. That's how it's always worked. Newsflash. So that was a little abomination or a little bonus point or whatever you want to call it. So then when everyone worked out there was no more organic reach, beauty, I was back in business again. What are we up to now? Social, Google, AI will be the next one. Did I do a slide on this? Oh, I did in a minute. I also did a thing called AdTown. Some advertising people will heard of it. It was a news website for the industry here in Adelaide. It's defunct now, and that a screenshot shows how old it is because we don't really have websites that look like that anymore. I did a book. Now, I brought a box of these books. You know how they keep talking about free downloads of ebooks? Well, I got a free download of an actual, I don't know, some of you won't know what this is, right? But in the old days, we used to print books on paper. And so this first book that I wrote, which is actually mostly just pictures, was how to get into the creative industries. And I overprinted by about 500 million copies, and they're in my shed. And so I figure they're doing me no good there. I mean, it wasn't a bestseller. In one of the advertising magazines, someone left a comment and said, there's better advice in the Harry Potter books. And I'm quite proud of that review. It's a bit brutal, but it was quite funny. But I do have a bunch of them, so if I can tell that some people here are already well into their careers, no offence, I looked at you when I said that, and that wasn't supposed to be ageist. But if you know someone or you just you're going camping on the weekend and you go, that could bloody start my fire, that would be nice. I genuinely do have a bunch of these books here, and there's advice from way smarter people than me in there. I then wrote a book about running. And in fact, when I turned up today, the Adelaide Marathon people are downstairs and they know me, and I tell them, they said, oh, you're running the marathon on Sunday. I went, yeah, no, that's a bit past me now. I've got a few of those. I gave one, is the trail running guy here? Oh yeah, down the back. I saw him, he's a trail runner. I gave him a copy of the book. I only bought like 3 of those. So if you're a runner, I figured there's not a lot of runners in the room, so I might be all right with just 3 of those. So that's who I am and what my breadth of experience is. Awards. Now, this is where it gets awkward, because when you go later in the conference, you know what other people have already told you, and if you disagree with it, you either look like an idiot or an asshole or a combination of both. So this is where the Sputnik style of things might differ. Are the show pony guys still here? Or did they just do their pres and go? Oh, cool, they went, cool. So they're going to give you, and I heard that they did some statistics on how creative ads outperform boring ads and all that sort of stuff. Is that right? Did they talk about that or something? Yeah. So I have a slightly different take on that. So I used to be young and I used to think if I win awards, people will pay me more, and I did, and they did, and that was fantastic. And then I went, well, I'm not in advertising anymore, I'm going to go and run races. And then the awards that I was into were things like running 100-kilometre races through the mountains. And then I got into bird watching, so I'm about one step away from socks and sandals, and one of those vests was all the things. And I got a finalist in the AusGeo Nature Photographer of the Year, so that's where you're more likely to see. You won't see me actually, because I'll be in one of those full camouflage suits and you'll just think I'm a tree. And I only mention that because over the years, my perspective about what matters has changed a little bit. And so, what matters more than awards. And I know I've also got a peer in the front row who I'm super self-conscious about presenting in front, because he did this amazing creative presentation. But it turns out that, can I go back? I can. And I'm going to give you some examples that are measured by money, but some of what you're going to get today is marketing stuff, and some of what you're going to get is Sputnik's guide to life, if you want to call it that. So I do want to make it clear that money is an absolutely terrible way to measure success. It's a fucking great way to pay the bills, and sometimes money is a great way to measure outcomes or results. And I know some of you will be here going, how do we sell more, or how do we get our cost per click down, and all that sort of stuff. But it's not the only measure. So, but I do need to say that these are little examples where there were lessons that have shaped my approach to things. So many years ago, there was a clothing store called Ed Harry. I was very young and very naive, and I thought I could work with this client who everyone hated. He passed away a year ago, so I'm not speaking poorly of him. He became one of my greatest mates and mentors. But he had 12 menswear stores that sold, with all due respect, shit clothes, but they were cheap. And we took that brand from 12 stores to 185, and really I just credit myself with the person who as being the person who didn't fuck it up. Because in marketing, you've got those 4 Ps. I know this is the basic version of marketing, but you've got product, price, place, and promotion, right? So his job was to get a product at a price and have 185 stores around Australia. My job was just to go, by the way, we've got $20 shirts or T-shirts or whatever. So I actually had a pretty easy job because he'd done a lot of the hard work. And that's really important. I'm going to come back to that point a couple of times. Same thing with Piccadilly. I worked with those guys, and our goal was to become an acquisition target, and we sold that to Coca-Cola Amatil for in the 8-figure range. And this one, has anyone ever heard of this company, by the way? Oh, fuck off, you work there, that doesn't count. I forgot about that. Smart ass. So there was a company that many years ago started a music store, back in the 60s, started a music store in Mount Gambier. And up until about 10 years ago, they had one in Mount Gambier, one in Warrnambool, and one in Winston Avenue in Door Park. And they got me in to write some shitty little TV ads going, we've got a Christmas sale, come and buy a guitar, whatever. And then one day they came to me and they said, Allen's have closed down, the music retailer. They used to sell a shitload of pianos in Melbourne. We're thinking of going and getting a warehouse in Melbourne, doing a pop-up shop, putting some pianos there, sending them from our, because we've got a piano account in South Australia, and seeing if we can sell some pianos. What should we call this business? And this is where you start to go, okay, this Sputnik guy, his version of creativity is not that great, right? So I said, let me get this straight. You're going to sell pianos from a warehouse and it's in Australia. And I went, come on. How about we call it the Australian Piano Warehouse, right? So this is my style of creativity. But it turns out they went on to go from that little pop-up store. And this is not I don't do the website, so the fact that Adelaide picture is not the same size is fucking killing me, right? So now they're Australia's biggest music retailer and pianos, and they've got Billy Hyde Music, and they've got another store in Perth and stuff. And again, all I do is go, how do we take what those guys already did and communicate it well? So again, I had the easy bit. I just didn't muck it up. And in fairness, COVID was pretty good. COVID was pretty bad for a lot of people, but pretty good for musical instrument sales. So if I was trying to flex, I'd go, I helped raise sales by 260% over the last few years, but mostly the pandemic helped with that because people couldn't fucking go anywhere and sat at home and played guitar and learned how to play piano and stuff. So this is the Sputnik approach. I've always wanted to make a graphic on this. My level of graphic design is about primary school level. So here we go with a Venn diagram. You've got creative stuff. You've got, there's a little circle missing. Can you see? Oh no, I can't see it on mine, but it is there. You've got stuff that works. In the middle, you've got the bit where the magic happens, right? It's a bit of both. Here's what I reckon some creative people do. They start from this side and they go, I'm not shitting on Show Pony when I say this, right? They're an amazing agency. They do amazing work. They've got great awards and they've got some great success stories. But I will say that I think sometimes creative people, the people that you work with, don't always have the same priorities as you. I sat in a presentation yesterday with Ryan from Refuel. Is that his name? Did I get that right? And he said, Google have different objectives to you because Google's objectives are to make money for Google, not necessarily to make money for you. And I think sometimes some practitioners in the creative space are there to make awards for themselves or to brag to their friends about this great ad that they did. So some people start from the creative side and we're a bit boring. We start from the conversation side and we just go, what would we actually just do to make this work? And it's really important because everything we do is based on this idea. And when you see case studies, this is I'm super hot on this, right? When you see case studies, people go, when we did this for Nike, I have a belief that people who use brands like that as case study things are assholes, right? And I mean it, right? And this is not you'll quickly work out why I'm what they call polarising and why in my industry, 10 years ago, I won the watering can for outstanding contribution to the industry and now everyone hates my guts, right? Because I say things like, there'll be people around town who will tell you Uber case studies, right? And they'll go, oh my God, we did this at Uber. Well, I fucking looked it up, right? I'm going to read this to you because I wanted to make sure I was right. Last year, Uber lost $9.3 billion. So I'm not that interested in their case study. I don't know how many of you guys have got $9.3 billion. That's probably US, so what's that, like 15 or something? Math is not my strong point. It's more than 9 in Australian. All right, so since 2017, they did 32 rounds of funding and raised $25 billion, and they've made a profit twice. And the profit was little, not $9 billion. So when people tell you how great you are, if you've got $25 billion in your war chest, then by all means listen to what they've got to say. But I don't work with clients who have $25 billion. So for me, it's important to put those things in perspective. There's another bridge that I've just set on fire. Sorry, Mal, if he watches this. Yeah, I know, but he might watch the video later. I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just saying. And that was my example. So when I said before, I was going to talk about some of the lessons I learnt yesterday. One of them was, if you want to raise $2 million, it helps if you've got 5 Asian elephants and a millionaire, right? Or if you, it's true though, right? Because for other people, it's not as easy, right? I did have some other, what was the other one? Oh, fuck, there's going to be a lot of free ebooks, isn't there? Because everyone's been told, just get them to download an ebook. Writer's block. Oh, sorry, Matt showed a video yesterday with Andrew Killey, who's this industry legend and has probably got more creative in his little finger than I'll ever have in my life. But he showed a video where he said, what do you do to solve writer's block? And Andrew said, go to the opera. Right? And I can tell you now, I'm fucking not going to the opera when I can't. And I can imagine you're sitting at the office, you go, oh, look, sorry, boss, I just need to come up with some ideas. I'll be back in a bit. I'm off to the opera, right? And again, I'm not trying to take the piss out of Andrew. Seriously, the guy is like, in our industry, he's like God, right? And I'm like the opposite to that. But it's important because it's about how do you approach things and where do you get those ideas from? Where am I up to? Arsehole still. So if I'm talking about, I can't believe I left that up there for so long, sorry. So now we get to the men's bit. So now I get to offend you guys, right? So I've been a little bit disingenuous because I've just crapped on everyone who's got elephants and, fancy things and Moe's hot dogs for $3 and all that sort of stuff. So now I'm going to talk about how hard it is to advertise chocolate when chocolate's the greatest thing on earth, right? So we say, is chocolate a free hit? So hopefully if this first link works, this is the ad that was current before I worked with the brand. And this is, now I'm being hand on heart serious for a second, this is not me criticising the ad, it's just to show that even with a brand that might be considered a free hit, there's different ways of doing work for them. So I'll see if this works. And do I hit it one more time? I think I do.
When one looks to select the finest fruit, there are many things to consider. Of course, size is important, but one must not disregard the broader criteria: appearance, texture, aroma, and weight. Which leads us to the most decisive test of all, taste. Which, of course, as we know, may require some convincing.
So sometimes ads just don't date well, and sometimes you go, what was the strategy there, and all that sort of stuff. And seriously, not just to be nice to my client, I'm not telling you that I think that's the worst ad in the world. I'm telling you that that's an ad based on a particular proposition or a strategy or a brief that they were given at the time. And of course, we came along, and so they had a thing called the factory outlet, and their shop had this sort of signage. And I've got to be really careful here, and again, I'm not just being a suck when I say this, but I was responding to a brief that was driven. So Polly is in the audience, right? And I'm going to call her out because she refused to present today, which was good for me. I just could talk for longer, right? But Polly was the driving force behind this. It wasn't me, but we did respond to it. So they had a store that, with all due respect, looked like shit. And I think we can all agree, even back then, it looked like shit. So I think it all looked like this. And so we went, well, what do we do? We're not going to come up with some wacky thing. I'm not doing the jingle, the go with fruit jocks, whatever it is, right? We just went, I am a bastard, aren't I? I don't mean to be a bastard. It's just natural. So we thought about what do we have to work with, and the truth is people really liked fruit chocks. And I don't mean a normal amount. I mean like people were stupid about it, right? Like they would, in the early days, you could post anything on social media about fruit chocks and you get like 5 million comments about it, and good comments, not just people complaining about The Voice or the show or the referendum either, I don't know. And they weren't very easy to, that was not meant to be political. I'm grateful to be here on Ghana land. So we went, people are always fanatical about them, in fact. So they had this thing called the Loyalty Reward Club, which was a pretty standard, thank you for sending me that graphic through, by the way, pretty standard looking card. And we went, well, what do we do? Thank you. What do we do? I'm going to have to go so quick. So I'm about 1% into my presentation and I'm running out of time. That's all right. So we turned this thing and we came up with this whole idea that people were so fanatical, how could we just put a name to it? And so we came up with the Fruit Choc Appreciation Society. So instead of a loyalty club, that's what we had. We started to do things like, instead of the factory outlet, we called it the Fruit Choc Shop. There are parts of that graphic, I don't like that line, it's what's inside that counts. I can say that because I wrote it, but I look at that and I cringe about it now. But we started to actually take what people already thought or what people would have called that store. So this wasn't a great creative bow to draw, it was literally the shop that sold fruit chocks, and we call it the Fruit Choc Shop. 10 years, was that last year? 2021, oh no, 3 years ago, sorry about that. COVID kind of messed with my brain a little bit. So now we then came up with a thing called Fruit Choc Appreciation Day. I say we. I will take the credit for our little business coming up with most of it. And then Polly said, we sort of need like an end point to this. And she said, how about we have a day? So we have a day. We've even had it endorsed by like 2 state premiers, which is crazy. Like they don't do commercial stuff like that. At one point, we took every single person on our database, put their names on a tram, and literally had people going, oh my God, my name's on a tram. That made no sense to me, and thankfully no one got killed trying to look at the name or anything like that. I'm going to just skip through some things because I really want to get to the end.
In 2000...
No, don't worry about that. Matt does great case studies, and one of the reasons I'm not showing it is because it's the worst case study video of all time. It's just me going, in 2020 we did, yeah, so I'm not going to show that. We did a lolly mural where we literally got 34,000 lollies and stuck them to a board and put fiberglass over them and stuff so it looked like that. There's a video for how we made that. I'm not going to show that either. So there you go. Don't worry about the volume. See, we've solved the volume problems today.
Thanks.
I'm not even going to show you the ads. But we did all these ads. Oh, I'll play this one, right? So we did these ads where we just tried to make a real thing out of how fanatical people were about the fruit chocks. So this is a guy on stage going, who wants to try the new fruit chocks? And then the hallway went, yeah, we all want to change it. Right, so, and Dom, who was here yesterday speaking, he did all the special effects on this because they're only we went, we'll get hundreds of people there, and how many people turned up, Polly? Like 60 or something like that. So yeah, we had to make the crowd look a lot bigger anyway. So well done to Dom on that. So we took all this thing that just already existed and turned that into the communication. We didn't have to get singing or dancing or anything like that. We just took what the sentiment already was. Which just brings us to Polywaffle. Now this is where I get in trouble because I didn't know, ironically, Polly was going to be here, and I did have to submit my presentation a few weeks ago. So I thought, right, what have we got? What do I know about Polywaffle? Right, I know that people like it, and I know that it looks like that thing where it's floating in the pool, right? Out of that, what's that film, Caddyshack or something, was it? Right, okay. And then what else do I know? Well, we announced it, and then we had to wait like 500 years before we could make it. And then people found out we weren't doing a par and people were going mental about it, right? So now this graphic, I hope I can show this graphic because this has never been in public, but I did pitch it and we never did it, right? It was biggest dramas of all time. Succession, Game of Thrones, or people who were upset about the Polywaffle bar. I wanted to put that out there. I got shut down on that one. I thought it was funny. So anyway, so we have to work on this brand and that's what we've got to work with, right? We've got some stuff. Oh, I thought that was like I was already up to 50. Oh, that's even better. Got it. Perfect. So I get the little, the timing things here and it throws you a bit because I go, I want to tell you so much stuff. Like I think what I've got to say is important because I'm egotistical and arrogant and I don't want to miss anything. And I find I'm super passionate about people. I know I make lots of jokes, right? But I'm actually super passionate about what I do and trying to share those ideas and hopefully not just in an entertaining way, but hopefully in a way that you can take away. And so at the end, I've got some things that I really want to share with you, not just about Polywaffle. So we sit down, we have a meeting. There are other companies involved, by the way, so shout out to Society, who also work with the guys at Men's and stuff. And we sit down, we do this big strategy meeting about everything that's going on. But we have heaps of things that we're trying to, this is the real world, right? Where we do have delays and we do have chocolate prices going through the roof, so, the cost of things are different. This is not ivory tower, perfect scenario stuff. So we go, right, what have we got to work with? People really missed Polywaffle, wanted it to come back. But for me personally, I also see this starting to happen, right? So this is my experience of where the brand's up to. And there's literally like a Facebook page or a group going, bring the Polywaffle back. And we start off with all these people super excited, and then over time, because it's fucking social media, right? Everyone starts to act like it's, I don't know, nuclear fallout or something. Everyone starts to get upset. Not everyone, but we start to see that sentiment. So what we've got to work with is this idea that if I go back for a second, how do I... So this is basically what we've got. That and a pack design from 10 years ago, something like that, when they last made them, right? When that was at Nestle or something, right? So we get this crunch R line, and it's supposed to represent the three ingredients, right? And not necessarily in this order, I can never remember, but chocolate, wafer, and marshmallow. That's the other one. Thank you for the audience who knows my client's product better than me, and thank you, Polly. So that's what I've got to work with. So again, I don't go mining for some add-on thing. I go, what's already there, right? So we come up with this idea of embrace the R. Right? And again, I'm not pitching this as I'm not going, oh my God, we're going to win Cannes. By the way, we have advertising awards in Cannes. How cool is that, right? Like you just get an award in Cannes for doing a fucking ad. It's crazy. So we go embrace the R, and really that was about a classic chocolate proposition about what chocolate delivers as a benefit, but it was also designed to be a sort of a subtle answer to people who were starting to get a bit worked up about the fact that it wasn't in a bar and all that sort of stuff, right? So we knew that there was some of that stuff creeping in. So we come up with this sort of, again, not the most outrageous creative ever, but we come up with this sort of graphic where we go, we want to pitch this serenity type thing. Where you go, embrace the R. I don't know what it looks like on your, oh no, it looks all right up there. Legendary Polly Waffle is back, and we do a video. And the other thing I want to admit, now I've charged Polly quite a lot of money for this, but I do want to say that we obviously sometimes have short deadlines and limited budgets. We don't have 25 billion Uber dollars, right? So sometimes what we do is we take stock images and stock video and we kind of manipulate them and add another layers on top. So a lot of this stuff is purely just stuff that you can buy and put together and stuff. So we did that. And there's nothing particular. Oh, it's $3,000, isn't it? Polly hated this music, but I won. So, we just did little things like this. And what I should say is, in any given time, you pitch this much stuff, and at a moment in time, which is still early for us, there's only this much of it out in the marketplace. And before I knew Polly was going to be here, I just wanted to drop one thing, because we'd come up with this. You've seen it, right? I'm proud of this. I know it's a bit cringy, but I like it. We had all these other ideas about how Embrace the R might manifest. And it's important because the best ideas are also platforms, not just one-off ideas, right? So the best ideas are things that every time you have to come up with something else, you can just go back to your DNA and go, everything's got to be about R, or everything's got to be about this, or whatever. With fruit chocks, it's always about the appreciation or not being able to share them. You've always got something that you can draw on. The original ad that I showed, for example, one off, right? Hard to draw that out. So what you want is a platform that people can go with. I'm actually doing it right now, thank you. So we had this idea that there would even be like get into that whole new age kind of embrace the R type thing. And I had this idea that would be, so ready for this? This is going to be my crowning achievement in my career. They're going to be like Polly-waffirmations, right? I know it's hard to say, but that's what I'm pitching. And I want people to be so impressed and go to Polly, you should definitely do that. And then we can roll out some more of the campaign. The next bit. So this is the bit I've got like literally 5 minutes for, and I will say that as by now you've worked out I like the sound of my own voice, I will be around afterwards. So if this gets cut short, I know there's another session, but if anyone wants to keep talking, I will keep talking. You've no doubt worked that out. I have a saying that says advertising is lazy for lazy marketers. I'm not going to labour this point because I've mentioned it about 20 times already, but if you've got a shit product or a shit proposition, it makes it a lot harder for me to fix. There's 3 things that come before my bit, and that's that product, price and place. There are other bits as well, but that's the simplified version. So if you can't find a good way to have something decent and then rely on a fancy ad to fix it, and again, this is where I look at and I go, the promotion still has to be right. You could probably stuff up a $3 hot dog, right? You could probably make that unattractive. But a lot of the heavy lifting is done by that point, right? They're sold in 1 million bloody OTRs around the place. $3 is a no-brainer and it's a hot dog, we get it, right? So there are certain times where if you've done the heavy lifting before you get to the promotion, it's useful. I bought this book the other day because there was some stuff I was trying to learn for a client. And this guy's on Shark Tank, right? I don't know, Subi, however you say his name. And I started reading and I went, oh my God, this book's amazing. It's like 9 steps, it's like AA. And the first step was, know your target audience. And I thought the way he'd written about that, super important for you to know. Read the first section. But then the second section was have this like unbeatable offer. And I thought, we always get stuck here because there'll be plenty of you who don't have unbeatable offers and don't have the ability to go, let's do 100% off or something. So, nice work if you can get it. I'm going to skip that one. One of the problems when people like me get up here and go, what I did was I did this and my cost per click come down. Once you're talking about it and everyone's doing it, it sometimes doesn't work anymore because it's already been done and things have changed, or it's like going to the footy and you can't see, so you take a crate and you can see it, but then the next week everyone brings a crate, right? There's only, so long that some of those advantages work. And here's the golden rule, right? This is one of my favourite charts that I've ever made. Didn't get my graphic designer, hard to do this, hard to believe. It's things people give a shit about. Their own shit. Who knows what the blue one is? It's their own shit, but in blue. They don't care about any of your shit. Someone's screenshotting that. That's fantastic, thank you. They don't care about your budgets or how you're going to pay your home loan or if your boss is going to give you a raise or all those things that are your objectives. You've got to be in your customer's shoes and think about what's important to them. Wank word bingo, be real, be authentic. So I talk about this all the time. And what I talk about is this thing called the audience of one. So I said I was going to try and give you a tip, and this is my tip. Don't be fucking try and think you have to go to the opera and do all that sort of stuff, right? Just imagine that there's somebody you know that you want to tell about this product and have that conversation with them. Do it in your head. It's easy for me. I've got voices, right? So they talk back. But if you haven't got that, just pretend or grab a workmate and talk like a fucking human being. Don't use the word thus, right? I see the word thus. It does my head in. No one says thus, right? Don't say, and thus we're going to do. That's something people don't say, right? So talk how you would talk. And if your target market is a young person, talk how you'd talk to a young person, which is different to how you'd talk to an old fart, or different how you'd talk to a poshy person or a bogan or whatever it is, right? But be personal about it. And at a conference like this, controversial, it's amazing, but it can be bullshit, right? I wanted to show this so bad. Titanic annual deaths, right? Like, too soon? I didn't do one about the yacht. I saw one that said, Ocean 2, billionaires 0. But I figure that's too soon, right? Because that was yesterday. But I just want to say, it's funny, isn't it? Like, they're billionaires. You're allowed to make jokes about billionaires. I feel bad for his daughter, but not for him. Anyway. Yeah. You can take data, and if you pick the right criteria, you can prove almost anything you want. So just be careful about how you interpret the data. The reason I have a job is because any idiot can read a graph and go, this is what's happening, but someone has to go, why do we think it happened, or what can we do about it? When you do research, people are liars. People will tell you things that they don't really think. They don't even know that they're lying sometimes, but I can tell you that I worked on, in the old days, about 500 brands that tried to go up against iced coffee, Farmers Union iced coffee, and in blind taste tests, the new product beat the other one every single time, but put it back in the carton and people don't like it anymore. So what people say they think and do aren't always the same thing. AI, you always ask people about AI. I watched yesterday, right, and where's it going? So I just want to try and save my career for a little bit longer, if I haven't killed it by being up here. AI is artificial, but it's not always intelligent, right? This is a thing, these guys are definitely not here today because they're doing an event in the Grampians this weekend. They did this thing saying etiquette for when you're trail running. And one of those last slides says, always give a kind thank you to those who yield to you. So, are we running in our suits of armour or something? Like, I don't know, no one says yield. In America, I think they've got yield for give way signs, so it probably makes over there. But if you use AI, don't be lazy, don't be a dick. And fuck yes. And Glam Adelaide, I'm a huge fan of what they do, but they ran this, and their secondary headline said, Sturt Football Club touches down at Unley Shopping Centre these school holidays. I'm going to have a guess that AI didn't know AFL doesn't have touchdowns. Right? And I see that, and it breaks the humanity. And for all the jokes I make, I just want you to come back to being human, right? Have a conversation with someone. If you wouldn't say that to your mate, because he'd go, you do a touchdown, what are you talking about? Don't put it in writing. Use AI if you want, but take 5 seconds to read it and go, hey, well, that's probably not quite right. I need to tweak that. My 1 minute. I sent a thing to my client. He sent me a thing that said, is it 0?
Yield,
yeah. I sent him a thing and I said, is my career going to be over? Because he sent me some copy and said, what do you think of this? I said, you used AI to do that, didn't you? And he sent me a reply, and his reply, he got AI to say, was my career going to be over? And I said, no, you've still got a job. We're just going to use your stuff. My last thing, I'm really passionate about this one. I don't care if we go over time. Sorry, I do. I'll get to it. I call it the business card test, right? Don't trust people who haven't printed their own business cards or don't have their own business or haven't had to spend their own money on their own business. Because you go to them and they'll fucking be suggesting the gatefold thing and the die cut and the foil, all right? And then they open their own business and you know where they go? Yeah. Because 50 million cards for like $12 or something, right? So if someone's spending your money, make sure that they do that. And my last thing is, because I absolutely adore my clients, my Dale Cleaves client I've worked with for 10 years plus, Men's I've worked with for 10 years plus, and who's the other one? Oh, my Merino people. Sorry, I forgot my other client. 12 years I've worked for them. There's a lot to be said for long-term relationships. I've worked with all of those clients longer than I was ever married, all that sort of stuff. They are my longest-term relationships, and it's easy to get disenchanted or disenfranchised or want to get someone new in, but there's a lot to be said for working for the same people for a long time and having that understanding and knowledge and passion and investment in their brand. And, and Polly would vouch for this, the amount of times that you're thinking about someone's business after hours because you've got that relationship. It's the complete opposite of taking someone for granted. Thanks. Sorry. Did I go a bit over?
You're good. I definitely need to hold you to account, though. Wank word bingo. I've been keeping note. You said flex 3 times.
Yeah, that's
differentiate the brand was in there.
Yeah.
Acquisition target was in there as well.
Yeah.
Any others? Did anyone pick up on anything?
Oh, I did the 8-figure exit. That's like a fancy way because I don't know the exact number because they wouldn't tell me because then I probably would want more of it. One of them was 12 million, one of them was 33 or something. Yeah.
Hey, can I get a few signed copies of your book, actually?
Yeah, and
no, I don't actually want one, but I work for the council and we've got a recycling facility. But if I can back a truck up.
I am begging you. I had to park miles away, and this thing is heavy, right? E-books not heavy. This thing, listen to this. Right, I brought a lot. Even if you don't want one, can you just do me a favour and take one on the way out? Find a young person.
I reckon we'll stick them by the back door. Do you want to put the bag at the back door? Perfect. As you walk out, you can grab one. We'll stick one by both doors.
And it's actually not a shit book, right? It's all right.
I'll read it. If you want to give me a copy, I'll read it. I promise. I'll leave it in the bathroom for 6 months, but I'll get through it.
Did we get any other questions at all? Any from show?
You've actually run out of time. We've got to kick you off.
Right,
but
cool.
An amazing presentation.
Thank you.
And we let you roll with it. Thank you. And